Wow, that is something. Supersonic jets are coming. Let's check it out. Legendary supersonic, 4 rapid 20mm cannons, air-to-air missiles. Wow. That is something else. Man, the F-100 looks really cool. Kinda wonder... Oh, what happened? Russian? Wait a minute. Oh, what happened? No, I don't want Russian. Give me English. Full screen? What the... What? I'm confused, though. I could have swore I clicked full screen to War Thunder, not this. But I get it, though. Duck and cover. Duck and cover, people! Supersonic jets are coming to get you. Oh, man. Oh, I almost forgot. Howdy, folks. Sauber here. Welcome back to the channel. Zoom! I cannot believe it. They're finally here. Supersonic jets. Well, 3 of them. At any rate, sorry, that was my phone. This is unbelievable. I have to be honest, I thought this patch was going to be specifically for the Italians. I mean, like, this is the interesting part. In 1.45, we got Steel Generals update, the American tanks. In 1.55, we got the British tanks, you know, Royal Armor. In 1.75, we got La Résistance, the French tanks, and in 1.85 we get the Italian not so fast. 1.85 supersonic. Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to be taking a look at primarily the F-100 Super Sabre, which I've actually taken in a battle. You'll see a real live battle from that. I didn't get a lot of good footage from it. Well, I got a good battle, but there were some other ones, but I just didn't have time to record them all because it was really late by the time I had some time to record. And then I also got to play in a custom battle with Fly for a bit, as you'll see later on in the video. We even did a little formation flight, which was really cool. But I digress. I'll get to that in a moment. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But anyway, supersonic jets. What does this mean for War Thunder? Well, for one thing, as you know, these jets are really fast. So, there are currently 3, well, technically 3, supersonic jets. I'm not going to go too deeply into the 3rd jet because I don't know all that much about it, but I'll get into that. The United States gets the F-100 Super Sabre at 10.0 battle ranking. Look at that sonic boom, that sound cone. Sorry, I don't know what it's officially called, but that cone that you get from breaking the sound barrier. That is so cool. And then, of course, there's also the Afterburner, which, keep in mind, this is the dev server, so I have a feeling that it's subject to change, because, I don't know, the F-100, it's really good at top speed, but I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like it loses a little bit too much speed when in a turn. But we'll just have to wait and see how that goes once it's fine-tuned. For the Russians, which I'll also have a little bit of test flight footage later on, is the MiG-19. That's right, the predecessor to the MiG-21. If we get the MiG-21, chances are we have to get the F-4 Phantom. Enough said. Like, I want the Phantom and the MiG-21. But we'll just have to wait and see in the future. And last but not least, we get the Golster Javelin. Almost forgot the manufacturer for a second. The Javelin. That plane is really interesting looking. It looks like it, I have to admit, the first thing I thought when I Googled it was I thought it was a bomber. But then I was like, it can't be a bomber. Because why is it that Gaijin is adding the F-100 and MiG-19 to the United States and Russia, respectively, which are air superiority supersonic fighters, and the Javelin is a bomber? So I looked it up. So I looked up more information on the Javelin, and it is actually an air superiority fighter. It's a really cool looking plane with its giant delta wing, and it's got two massive engines that produce a total output of like almost 9,000 kilograms of thrust. Just wow. Talk about incredible power. But of course it is a large aircraft, so that power is to help keep it in the air. Now, I'm not going to delve too deeply into it because, like I said, I don't know too much about the Javelin, but there's I guess you could say, like a little debate on the forum, for lack of a better word, about it not truly being supersonic, because its top speed in the game is just about, I think 650 miles an hour. I don't remember the stat card off the top of my head, but it is capable of doing supersonic speeds. From what I understand, it just can't maintain it. But alas, check this out. Boom. An air-to-air missile strike in War Thunder. Wow. Now, bear in mind, those missiles are very sensitive. Now, what I mean is that if your enemy's target so much as just moves a little bit, chances are that missile's aim is, or let me rephrase, not its aim, but it's not going to be able to maneuver and just overshoot. So I think in that regards, missiles are just going to primarily be a secondary armament. I personally would use it if I'm really close to a jet at high speed, but just can't reach it with my guns, lock on and then just launch a missile. Now, unfortunately, you cannot rapid fire them, which I guess is realistic, and you also can't fire them on tanks. So, there's that. But the F-100, as you saw there with its 20mm cannons, that was awesome. Now, to go back on topic, you've probably noticed that I'm on an arcade map. Good old African Canyon, which is, if I recall correctly, not only one of the oldest maps in the game, but is also from the game that War Thunder was based on, Birds of Steel. At any rate, you're probably wondering, why am I in arcade when I usually play realistic battles? Well, for some reason, on the dev server, Air Realistic was not available. Tank Realistic was available, but not Air Realistic. I'm not entirely sure why. My best theory is that only the Allied nations, well, if you want to call it that, get their new supersonic jets. One for each nation. The United States, Britain, and Russia. Now, why I guess that is odd is or let me rephrase that, not odd, but in terms of the matchmaker is odd, is because generally in a top tier jet battle, it is the Germans and Italians and against the Japanese, the French, the Russians, the British, and the Americans. Yeah, 2 nations against 5. That's pretty odd. But 3 of those nations, out of those 5 on the one side, will have the supersonic jets. So that means chances are you could be flying a Super Saber, a MiG-19, or a Javelin against CL-13s and G-91s, and yeah. I'm not sure if it's going to be that way. We'll just have to wait and see. My best guess is that they're most likely going to change the BR at 10.0 to where it's generally supersonic against supersonic. Namely, the Javelin and the F-100 Super Saber against the MiG-19. And the MiG-19, oh my goodness, that thing is so powerful. And I have some footage on that, and I'll explain why I'm kind of sighing like that in a moment. Now, going back to the Super Saber, I will be honest. As awesome as its top speed is, and its armament, and its AIM-9 Sidewinders, my concern is its low acceleration. Now, don't get me wrong, it does have a good top speed, and I probably should not have been dogfighting that Yak 30, but he did catch me off guard. I thought I could catch him off guard, but he ended up getting me off guard instead, so Oops. I tried going in a straight line, and I don't know why, but I wasn't accelerating as fast as I probably would have liked. Now, I don't know why he did not try to finish me off. Maybe he just felt bad, or he was low on fuel, because as you will soon see, I was low on fuel. I ended up running out of fuel just before I made it to the runway. But alas, I was able to land safely and get back into the fight. So, I'm curious how this will affect the jet gameplay meta, because the way it currently goes, and when I say currently I mean before 1.85 comes out, is that you typically fight on the deck. Because the subsonic jets like the CL-13s, the MiG-15s and 17s, and the G91s have really optimal performance at low altitude. Higher altitude, medium altitude, it's okay-ish, but high altitude, you're going to have a hard time. So low altitude in many cases is the best fighting altitude because the air is rough, you're able to maneuver quickly, and sometimes you can maintain speed pretty good. And thus have some epic dogfights. For these new jets, however, it's a little bit different. At least what I've noticed with the F-100. Now, I don't have the Javelin unlocked. Unfortunately, I did not go down the Gloucester Meteor line. Because as much as I like the Meteors, I was more into the Hunter. So after I got the Hunter, I just played the Hunter and the Venom for a little while, and then of course jets from the other nations. I didn't really go down the Meteor line, which I'm kind of tempted to go down the Meteor line, not in a mad dash, but like a long-term goal, essentially. So the next interesting thing I want to talk about is, now that we have the first iteration of supersonic jets to War Thunder, what's next? I mean, what other nations are going to get their supersonic jets? Or let me rephrase that. What supersonic jets are the other nations going to get? Because once you get past the Korean War, the variety of jets for each nation kind of decreases. I'm not saying some nations didn't have supersonic jets for a while, until they got ones that are kind of out of the meta at the moment, such as like the F-4 and the MiG-21, but rather in terms of variety. Like, I know the French operated some F-100 Super Sabres, so they get that. They would most likely get that. And then, of course, they also have their family of post-war supersonic jets, such as the Mirage family, which is so cool. But then, this is actually kind of funny, because it actually accounts for both for Italy, Japan, and Germany. What would they all get? Are you ready for this? The F-104 Starfighter. Yeah, that's right. The good old Starfighter. That interesting plane, which I have to admit looks really cool, that first flew in 1956, was introduced in 1958, and wasn't retired until, well, it was retired in the 80s by the United States, but it wasn't retired until, fully retired, until Halloween of 2004. By, of all countries, Italy. Yeah. This is also that same plane that had notorious reputation for crashing. But hey, I digress. The jet looks cool, it's really fast, and it almost looks like a space plane. Like something you would see in science fiction. But at any rate, when we can get the F-104 Starfighter, there's going to be at least 4 nations in the game that would have the Starfighter. Namely, the United States, Japan, Germany, and Italy. That... I can't get over about how interesting that thought is. But, yeah. The only problem I see is that if they're going to get, like, their starfighters, we would have to get, like, the MiG-21, MiG-23, and, what are some other jets? Oh, yeah, the Lightning, the Mirage, etc. Because the F-104 Starfighter, its top speed is, wait for it, Mach 2, 1,528 miles per hour. Hi, hi, hi. And then its climb rate is even more ridiculous. 48,000 feet per minute. 240 meters per second. That... I will admit, though, if and when they add the F-104 Starfighter, I'm going for it. So yeah, let's go back to the jets that are going to be added to War Thunder. And as you saw there, yeah, I did get shut down by that stupid Yak 30. I mean, like, he was skiing on my end, which means, like, it's like he just magically makes the turns. I guess the server couldn't properly, you know, place him in the animation or whatever you want to call it. But here we are with the MiG-19, which I have to admit, after playing against this plane in custom battles as well as real battles, and then of course test flying it, it has me so divided. I mean, like, the last time I had such a debate like this was when the T-80B and M1IP, or IPM1, whatever you want to call it, when they were added. And, like, I was like, man, I really want the T-80B, but how's the matchmaker going to be? And this is back when, and when I say back, I'm talking future tense. Back when, like, the M1 is like Rumpelstiltskin, and it still is most of the time, but there are some days when, even playing as the Germans and I almost said the Italians, Germans and the Russians, you can actually get some good games. As you may recall in my video with the T-80B, with the ERA package, which I will admit, now I understand there's a reason why it's not called the T-80BV in the game. So there's that. At any rate, so I played the T-64B for a little while just to see how the matchmaker would be, and when I saw how the American teams were doing really good at the moment, because it goes back and forth. That's how battles can be, because even with the CL-13 when I play it, or the G91, we don't win every single game. There are some times when we get Rumpelstomped by the Allies. And that's the beauty of having vehicles in multiple nations at top tier. So, like, if one faction is, you know, having an off day, you could just play the other faction. But at any rate, I ended up opting to go towards the M1IP, since I had a talisman on my M1 Abrams, and I was able to get the M1IP within 3 weeks. So there's that. But as for the MiG-19 and the, I almost forgot what it was called, good grief, the F-100 Super Saber, I am so divided. Because on the one hand, the F-100, it has awesome guns, 4 of them, 420mm, with 800 rounds total, and, you know, the air-to-air missiles, and if you wanted to, you could also strap on bombs, missiles, and rockets. Although, I looked at the rockets, I didn't highlight them in my little highlight with the F-100 and the hangar, but you could only carry, if I recall correctly, 14 or 20? Something ridiculous like that. I was like, yeah, why would you only want to carry so few rockets when you could carry 10 750-pound bombs? The same bomb load as the Vautour. But who knows? Maybe they're just working on adding more loadouts for the F-100 because, as you know, the dev server is subject to change. But anyway, as for the MiG-19, man, it has a lot going for it. I mean, sure, you only get 2 30mm with only 70 rounds per gun, but the way I would treat it personally is kind of a little bit like the M163. M163? Oh my goodness. The ME-163 Comet. And to deviate a little, wow. Reached 900 miles per hour with the MiG-19 in a dive. That is just incredible. Now, you obviously wouldn't be able to maintain that speed, but alas, you can reach that speed. That is the fastest I've ever gone in any jet, and that was such an awesome ride. But anyway, going back to the MiG-19 and its maneuverability, like, if I tried to turn even so much as like this in the F-100, I would lose a considerable amount of speed. Not a whole lot, but at top tier, speed is your life insurance. If you lose too much of it, you're going to be in trouble. But like the MiG-19, as you can see here, I can maneuver, fire my guns, and keep maintaining my speed. Now, the reason my engines were overheating is because it took me about 10 minutes to get to 40,000 feet. Because I tried to go as fast as possible, and a couple times I actually stalled, so it was like, oops. But, like, you see me maneuvering around here, and sure, I do lose speed, just as I would in the F-100, but look at that. I am maintaining my speed and gaining some of it back with ease. So, my general plan that I might do is I'll get the MiG-19 first, go ahead and buy it, and then I will get the F-100 Super Sabre shortly after. When, I'm not exactly sure. But all in all, I am really excited about the introduction of supersonic jets to War Thunder. And another thing that has me curious is how soon can we expect rank 6 ground attackers, such as the A-10 Warthog, or Thunderbolt, whatever you want to call it, the Su-25 Frogfoot, and more. Now, I understand a number of people would be reasonably concerned, such as guided air-to-ground missiles. Now, I'm not talking about, like, the ball pups we have in game, which are manually guided. I'm talking about laser-guided and TV-guided. Especially for players of ground tank RB, which I can easily understand, because people complain about aircraft in tank RB, and I certainly have some issues with some aircraft in tank RB, but more than aircraft, helicopters. Just a long story short issue. Now, I can understand because helicopters are easy to shoot down by planes, but if there are no planes, they can just climb to space out of the range of your AA fire and just fire ATGMs at you from space. Yeah. But nonetheless, I am really excited about the new supersonic jets to War Thunder. I'm not sure which jet I'm going to get first. I'm kind of leaning towards the MiG-19 just because of how reliably fast it is and able to maintain its speed. But I also want the F-100 for its variety in armament packages. So I'll just have to wait and see how things go. But anyway, wait for it. Boom. As you can see here, I'm playing with Fly Daily, aka Got the Free Abrams, FPE and ports. No, I'm not going to do that. Sorry, that was a bad joke. Anyway, along with Didasco, and we're flying our supersonic jets in formation. Didasco and I are in our F-100 Super Sabres, and Fly's in his MiG-19. God, I love that maneuver. It's funny, it took us like 8 attempts to try to get that maneuver done because Discord was acting up for some reason. I didn't have any issues, but Fly was complaining about how the Discord would keep cutting out. But in all honesty, I think it had something to do with his internet connection, because he did complain about that he needed to call the internet company in the morning because this was unacceptable! But yeah, oh, and just for conclusion, granted, this update also will feature the new Italian tanks, plus 2 bonus ground vehicles that the United States and Russian and American players are going to look forward to. The T-72A and the M3 Bradley. So, yeah. And then, of course, the Italian tanks as a whole. I'm especially interested in that little baby tank that only fits 2 crew members and has a 20mm anti-tank rifle. That thing is going to be so interesting to play out. And it's even lighter and smaller than the ASU-57. So definitely look forward to playing the new update when it comes out. And don't worry, I'll definitely talk about Italian tanks more in a future video. But anyway, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're enjoying the video so far. I had a great time on the dev server, and I certainly can't wait to go zoom in this new supersonic jets. But anyway, that is it for today. Have a great day. Stay safe. Peace out.